They wouldn't do that, would they? The question hangs in the air like a cold, silent winter in Toronto. A familiar name, present for over a decade, has begun to appear on lists that once seemed untouchable. Morgan Rielly, the longest-serving defenseman on a roster, the player who endured time, criticism, and rebuilds. Now, he finds himself where few ever imagined, among the names possibly on the move. And that changes everything. For years, Rielly has been the steady presence on a team defined by instability. He was there when the Leafs were still searching for their identity. He was there when the young core was taking shape. He was there when high salaries piled up and playoff frustration became routine. And now, at 31 years old, under contract through 2028, protected by a full no movement clause, and carrying a $7.5 million cap hit, he finds himself in the middle of a storm he didn't create, but one that might carry him away. On the surface, it sounds absurd, but it was suggested by Frank Saravalli, one of the league's most respected insiders. According to him, Leafs GM Brad Treliving is seeking sweeping changes, and part of that may involve moving on from big contracts, even if it means parting with legacy pieces. That's how Morgan really landed at 15th on the daily face-offs list of the top 20 trade candidates. Not because of a drastic dip in performance, not because of locker room issues, but for something much more pragmatic. Cap relief. A potential DNA shift will require sacrifices, and really, as symbolic as he is, still holds considerable value playing from a high-level management perspective. Represents a short. But how much weight does this rumor really carry? This past Tuesday, during what's known as Locker Cleanout Day, the moment players officially closed a chapter on the season, Rielly was asked about the possibility of a fresh start with another team. His answer was direct. "I'm not even thinking about that." No hesitation. No room for speculation. The message was clear. He doesn't want to leave. He's not considering leaving. He doesn't see himself anywhere but Toronto. And he holds all the contractual tools to back that stance. The full no movement clause protects Morgan through the end of the 2027 to 28 season. Until then, he only leaves if he chooses to. And from all indications, he doesn't want to. On Thursday, the weight of that statement was reinforced by another authoritative voice. Pierre Lebrun of TSN reported that the Leafs aren't even expected to attempt negotiating a potential waiver of that clause. According to his sources, there's zero chance Rielly would consider it. In his words, no chance. Lebrun went even further. Rielly loves being a Leaf. There's no sense of goodbye. No sign of discontent. On the contrary, he remains one of the silent leaders of the group and seems willing to do whatever it takes to push Toronto beyond where it's been before. So, if he doesn't want to leave, and the Leafs know that, why is his name on a trade rumor list? Because the pressure for change is real, and the margin for error is shrinking. The Leafs ended another season with a bitter taste, eliminated early once again, watching their offensive stars age without reaching the peak. Treliving took over with a clear mission: break patterns. And in a franchise where the four big salaries remain untouched, every alternative, no matter how unpopular, ends up on the radar. But in this case, the radar hits an immovable object: the player's will. Morgan really isn't just contractually shielded. He's emotionally tied to the franchise. For him, being a Leaf is more than wearing the jersey. It's part of his identity in the sport. And there's another factor that could shift this narrative. Rielly found his game again in the playoffs. After a regular season full of ups and downs, he stepped up when it mattered most. Part of that resurgence is due to the presence of Brandon Carlo, the 6'5" defenseman acquired from the Bruins at the deadline. For the first time in a long time, Rielly had a stable, complementary partner. Carlo not only provided defensive protection, but also gave Rielly the freedom to attack, create, and position himself more effectively. Their chemistry was instant, and now, with Carlo under contract for 2 more seasons, there's real hope that Rielly can deliver one of his best campaigns in years. That changes the game. If Rielly returns to top form, if the pairing with Carlo matures, And if management realizes that it's more valuable to maximize this investment rather than force an unlikely exit, then maybe the speculation is just that off-season noise. But in Toronto, every noise echoes like a scream. And the mere mention of Rielly possibly leaving has already sparked intense reactions among fans, journalists, and former players. And now I want to know, do you, Leafs fan, believe Morgan really should stay with the team to the end of his contract? Or do you think opening that cap space is necessary for deeper change? The discussion is open in the comments. And I'll tell you one thing. This is just the first piece in a chessboard that's about to move. But while Morgan Rielly's name is slowly fading from the radar, another name, perhaps even more symbolic for the modern era of the Leafs, is starting to ignite the backstage of Toronto. Mitch Marner, not just Austin Matthews' line mate, but the hometown kid, the local talent who has carried the pressure of being the franchise's offensive hope. And now, quietly but increasingly clearly, he seems to be living his last days as a Maple Leaf. And this time, the noise is not being manufactured by the media. It's coming from inside the locker room, from the halls of Scotiabank Arena, from the closed-door meetings with General Manager Brad Treliving. Marner enters the offseason in the final year of his 6-year contract, a $65.4 million deal with a full no-movement clause. For 6 years, he was the future bet, the prodigy who grew up in Greater Toronto and was supposed to lead the team to the top. But time passed, frustrations piled up, and now, according to Treliving himself, renewing him is not on the priority list. The new direction of the franchise is clear. Rebuild the DNA, even if it costs historic players. And Marner, as much a star as he is, does not fit into this new core. All the pieces are beginning to fit together. The lack of renewal, the growing rumors, the sideways glances. And most importantly, an episode that broke, once and for all, the trust between player and franchise. The trade offer for Mikko Rantanen from the Dallas Stars. That was the moment something seemed to shatter. Being treated as a trade chip, even protected by a clause, revealed how much his internal prestige had diminished, despite still playing at a high level, and according to sources close to him. Since then, he has started seriously considering a new beginning elsewhere. Now, in 2025, that scenario gains momentum, and a new team emerges as a protagonist in the saga, the Vegas Golden Knights. According to the Hockey News, the Knights are in serious negotiations with Toronto for number 16. There is no finalized deal yet, but conversations are described as deep and concrete. The problem, as always, is the salary cap. With a $10.9 million cap hit, Marner is not an easy acquisition, especially for Vegas, who is already operating near the limit. The Pacific Division team's management would need creative moves to clear space, which includes strategic departures, buyouts, and smart use of LTIR, long-term injury reserve. But they are willing, because they know what Marner represents. An elite playmaker with rare vision, capable of changing the course of a playoff series. And Marner, it seems, is willing to. According to recent reports, he has imposed a clear condition. He no longer wants to play on a Canadian team. He seeks a real fresh start, less media pressure, a new cycle, far from the weight of representing the city where he was born, a city that now, more than ever, seems to have no room left for him. Besides the Golden Knights, the Los Angeles Kings have also shown interest, but Vegas appears to have made the first move. The irony is that while Morgan really fights to stay, resisting any possibility of a trade, Marner seems to accept and even desire the change. And this divergence between two pillars of the Leafs clearly represents the crossroads the team is at. If Marner leaves, Toronto gains cap relief, open space for new talents, and reinforces the idea of rebuilding around Austin Matthews. But there's a cost that cannot be measured in dollars, an emotional cost. Austin Matthews has always made clear that his relationship with Marner goes beyond the ice. They are close friends with natural chemistry on the ice. Marner's departure could even shake the emotional stability and confidence of number 34 in the current project. Furthermore, the Leafs locker room has been described as delicate. Removing a central piece without proper balance could cause irreparable disruptions, especially if there isn't a worthy replacement. And if the Leafs are not ready to handle the technical and symbolic vacuum Marner would leave behind. For Marner, going to Vegas might be exactly what he needs. A competitive team, solid structure, milder climate, less oppressive media. It's the kind of environment where he can thrive away from incessant spotlights, where he can be himself, not Matthew's shadow, nor the hometown kid burdened by decades of collective frustration. It's a change of scenery that could redefine careers and franchises. But the big question hanging in the air is Toronto really ready to turn this page? Or once again, is it letting go of generational talent, only to plunge into another cycle of uncertainty? And you, fan, what would you do if you were in Brad Treliving's shoes? Would you accept Vegas' package and start fresh? Or would you hold on to Marner for one more year, hoping for one last all-in? Answer in the comments. Let's discuss. And if you want to know which names are being included in these negotiations and why a Stanley Cup champion could be coming to Toronto in a direct trade for Marner, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and stay tuned. Because the Leafs' next big turning point might be about to happen. And when it does, you want to say you heard it here first.